Hi Sirens, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, ghouls, gals, and non-binary pals. I'm so happy you're here today. Today I'm going to show you how to make an easy face cast using the next few items. So I use Vaseline or petroleum jelly, easy form plaster strips, perfect cast plaster, some 100 grit sanding paper sheets, and wood glue. And the most important part is to have a clean face and slather your face up with some petroleum jelly or Vaseline. I made the mistake to only do it on my brows and my hairline because I forget I'm a hairy woman, and I ended up ripping my peach fuzz off, so that was a lot of fun. And also get your eyelashes. I'm not sure why I did this. In this video I'm not doing it over my eyes because I didn't want to be blind. And so I just have a bowl of water here and some plaster strips that I was talking about earlier. Dip them really quickly into some warm water or cold water, I don't think it matters. But I just started at the bottom of half of my face, just to make it a little easier when I was getting closer to my eye area, and I made sure to always do circular motions so I could cover up any holes that the plaster strips had, because it is a type of fabric that's used to make the plaster strips. And then I had forgotten to put Vaseline on my baby hair and all of my hairline, so that's really important to do also because I didn't want my hair to get ripped out from there. So now the best thing to do is to double up on layers for when you're making a mold of your face, just because you don't want any of that plaster to seep through once you pour it in. It could potentially ruin your cast, and that would be super sad and a waste of time. And also be very careful when you're working around your nose area. I suggest you cut the strips into smaller pieces. I didn't end up doing that because I'm an idiot. But always make sure you're able to breathe, and I do recommend having somebody there with you if you need help for any reason at all, also to make sure you're safe and you don't do anything wrong that could potentially hurt you. I didn't really have anybody that knew how to do this or what I was doing, because nobody ever knows what I'm gonna do. But I just made sure to steer clear of my nostrils, and when I did get near them, I made sure to kind of mold the plaster strips into my nose so that I could breathe perfectly. So now same thing at the top, so you want to also do circular motions, make sure you conceal all of those little holes. And if you are doing this on your own, try not to get too close to your eye. I'm just a little braver because I know my limits, but if you've never done this before, I do recommend you steer clear and make the holes, I guess, where your eyes would be a little bit bigger than what I did, because that's a little smaller than I expected to see. So now that we look like a Jabberwocky or a mummy, and the plaster strip is about to come off, the best way to get the cast off is to wiggle your face around and make any facial expression you can think of. Like I said in the beginning, I was kind of an idiot and I forgot to lather my face in Vaseline, so I ended up paying for it and my peach fuzz was gone. So what I'm doing here is I'm just doubling up on the outside of the mold so that there are no holes or no way of any plaster getting out when I do pour it into the mold. So I'm covering up, you know, the eye holes that I had and then the nostrils. And right there, when I hold it up to the light, it makes it a lot easier to see what parts are a lot more sheer and need more plaster strips. And when you're making your cast plaster mix, it is 3 parts of water. I'm sorry, 3 parts plaster, 1 part water. And right there I believe I had 3 cups of plaster and 1 cup water. And before you do all of that, you're going to want to also put Vaseline inside and all over your face cast so that the plaster will come out a lot easier. So when you're making your mix, I do recommend that you pour the water in first and then the plaster. It just makes it a lot easier to have the water soak up the plaster. And here, to hold the weight of when I was filling my mold, I put down a big bowl that I had and an old towel. You always want to use old garments because I did end up getting some of the plaster, as you can see here, onto my towel. And you always want to keep it, you know, as balanced as possible. And I did let this dry overnight, and the next day it was ready to come out of the strips. So I just took a small pair of scissors and cut away at the edges, and I tried my best not to scratch or do anything to my cast. And if you can find scissors the small the better. It made it a lot easier to cut the plaster into smaller pieces and just kind of peel it off and up. So here is after I've cut up away at the sides, and I'm peeling it completely off of my mold. So you can toss that part now, and now you have your face cast, and wow, she looks a little rough. I did end up getting a little bit of clay on it because I was impatient and I kind of needed to use it, so I didn't do any of the stuff that I'm doing right now. I'm taking 100 grit sandpaper just for smoothing all the edges and the rough parts that are on my cast. And there's not really any way you have to smooth this out. It's, I guess, to your liking. I only did it a little bit just because I'm going to be using this for special effects, you know, extra face pieces and stuff that I want to add to fit perfectly to my face, like latex pieces, stuff like that. So I'm not too worried about, you know, the little pieces of plaster strips that were left behind because it kind of blended out in the end anyway. And that giant thing right there looks like I have a booger. Great. And now I'm just gonna take some wood glue that you can find at, you know, any craft store, and a sponge brush, and just kind of sponge it all over. And just make sure you get it in all the little crevices. In this clip I only did one layer because I was kind of lazy and I didn't want to record me doing 6 extra layers, but I did end up doing 7 layers total, just to make sure that it is sealed and protected and I don't get any more clay on it and don't mess it up any further. And that's how you get yourself a nice face cast. Hopefully yours is a lot nicer than mine. But thanks guys for watching and tuning in, and there's my booger again. But that is how you make an easy face cast.